Wonderful. So once again, welcome everyone to today's Tuesday Times Roundtable. The topic for today is Peace Corps, a global mission for human connection. My name is Janeri Mendoza Farjun, and I am the Senior Program Coordinator at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. These Tuesday Times Roundtable are the Office of Global Learning Initiatives flagship discussion series that brings together multiple perspectives on current global issues and trends while fostering meaningful conversations on topics that aligns to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You may learn more about TTR or watch the past recordings or come back to reference this one by visiting go.fiu.edu/TTR. Please take a moment to sign in. You're going to find the link in the chat, and also this QR code will take you to that a sign-in sheet. This is what we're going to be using to monitor the attendance for today, or to report it also for Honors College, Global Learning Medallion, and also extra credit from your professor. So whatever brought you to us today, we are very glad that you're here. I would like to also thank the entire team of Global Learning who is joining us today. We do have our Assistant Vice President of Global Learning Initiatives, Dr. Hilary Lander, and also the amazing Global Learning team, Program Manager Michelle Saldivar, Assistant Director Connie Penchak, and our graduate assistants, Natalia and Gitangeli. They're all going to be monitoring the chat and making sure that we captured your questions as well as the Q&A, so we can stay engaged in today's session. All right. Okay, so if you would like to learn more about the Global Learning Initiatives and all the programs that we have available for the FIU students, you may follow us in Instagram. This QR code is going to take you to the Instagram account, and also you may visit our website at global.fiu.edu/students. We do also have peer advisor hours. So if you would like to also come in to one of those advising sessions, they happen every Wednesday from 10 to 12 o'clock. And then you may come to the office or do it virtually as well. And our Tuesday Times Roundtable, they're also connected to a New York Times article, just so it continues the discussion as well. If you would like to read the article for this week, you may visit the link go.fiu.edu/TTR1008. And also, if you would like to sign up for your free subscription with the New York Times, you may do so by going to the link accessnyt.com. As I mentioned, we are connecting all TTRs to the Sustainable Development Goals, and today's session it is connected to SDG number 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions by promoting a peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development and providing access to justice for all and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. To learn more about the SDGs, we do have the link in here. And as a friendly reminder, if you haven't done so, please sign in by using this QR code. All right, so now it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Her name is Taylor Majher. She's the senior recruiter for the Peace Corps, a federal agency that promotes friendship and peace across the world. A little bit about Taylor. She's the recruiter for universities and community organizations in the greater Miami, South Florida area. She served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the agricultural sector in Guatemala from 2018 to 2020. Taylor is also a graduate from University of Iowa, from where she has a bachelor's in science in human psychology and received a master's in arts in international administration from the University of Miami through the Peace Corps Coverdell Fellowship Program. She grew up in Naperville, Illinois, outside of the city of Chicago, and enjoys distant running and traveling. Welcome, everyone. Let's help me welcome in Taylor to today's session, and I'll turn it over to you right now.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for that introduction. And hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope everyone is staying dry, staying safe. And I will start by sharing my screen. I have a presentation for us, and I will introduce myself a little bit more. And then through this presentation, I'm going to share about what Peace Corps is, how you can apply if you're interested, some of the benefits we have, where you can go, what you could do as a Peace Corps volunteer. But the majority of this presentation will mainly be about my Peace Corps service and sharing photos from my service. And the main focus is on the human connection that I experienced in my service, and a lot of Peace Corps volunteers experience through their service with the agency. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. So hopefully you have a pad and paper or your phone or somewhere to take notes or write down questions, because we'll have a good amount of time at the end for some open discussion and questions as well. So just to introduce myself a little bit more, or again, my name is Taylor Majher. I am the senior recruiter for Peace Corps here in South Florida, but I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala from 2018 to 2020. I was in the agriculture sector, which means I was working alongside the representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture in Guatemala to help them achieve their goal, or at least try to achieve their goal, of reducing the amount of malnutrition in rural households. It's a big, lofty goal, and it's pretty vague, actually, too, but um, the agronomists of Ministry of Agriculture were trying to accomplish this by providing different trainings and activities to community groups, trainings such as how to create a home garden or a school garden, how to maintain those gardens, harvest those fruits and vegetables, and use them in healthy recipes. And so I was there mainly as a co-mentor or a co-facilitator for those activities. And then through my Peace Corps service, I did become fluent in Spanish, which has been very helpful since I moved to Miami. And, a lot of people here speak Spanish, so I try to practice every day. But before my service, and, this is a common misconception, people think that you need to be fluent in a second or third language just to get into Peace Corps. And this is not true. If you have any language skills in any language, it will help you become a more competitive applicant for Peace Corps. But I did take Spanish through high school and all through college, but definitely got fluent in it during my Peace Corps service. And then I learned a little bit of Maya Quiche, which is one of the over 30 different Mayan languages and Mayan tribes that are still active and alive and well in Guatemala today. And so, what is Peace Corps? The Peace Corps mission is to promote world peace and friendship, and we try to accomplish this by doing these three goals. So, the first is partner with the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained individuals. The second, promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. And finally, promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. So the first bullet point is all about the actual work that you do in your community. So as I mentioned, I was in the agriculture sector working alongside Ministry of Agriculture. That actual work that I was doing with my counterparts or those community members was me trying to fulfill Peace Corps' first goal. And then any other things that you work on, if you're providing English classes or you are learning the local language like I was doing, that kind of goes towards the first goal of Peace Corps. And then the second and third goal are all about intercultural exchange. So you showing up as your full self in your community and interacting with your host family, if you have one, or your community members, and sharing with them about your customs and traditions and just sharing about your life in the United States or sharing about your family. That goes towards that first goal or that second goal. And the third is all about what you learn in your community, and what you do with that information when you come back to the United States. So me sharing about my host family or the work that I did or the experiences that I had in Peace Corps here in the United States with friends, family, and other people such as you all today is really going towards that third goal of Peace Corps. So, to be eligible for Peace Corps, you do need to be a US citizen and you need to be 18 years or older. And it is either a 15-month or 27-month service. So, this is a post graduation professional development opportunity. You do 3 months of pre service training and then either 1 year or 2 years of volunteering. And as you can see, over 240,000 people are return volunteers. Myself and Dr. Landorf here are part of that group, and we're part of a huge network that is here to support other people that are, going to go into Peace Corps or are Peace Corps volunteers now or are coming home from their Peace Corps service and are looking for opportunities. I've already spoken to at least 10 people during their service or coming right out of their service, and they're wondering how they can become Peace Corps recruiters, which is my role now. So I've shared with a lot of people about my experience, and we're always willing to do so. I mean, there's multiple return Peace Corps volunteer groups all over the nation that are willing to share about their experiences and share about what they did with their Peace Corps service once they came home. Because there are a lot of different paths, career paths, higher education, that you can do and people take after their Peace Corps service. And most of us are pretty much everybody is very willing to talk about it and help other people once they get back. About 95% of volunteers have at least an undergraduate degree. This is another misconception. A lot of people think that you need to have a degree to get in to Peace Corps, which is not true. Like I said, really, the two main requirements are you must be 18 years or older and a U.S. citizen. But having any degree does make you more competitive. So it can be an associate's, bachelor's, master's. But like it says, about 95% have some sort of undergraduate degree. And then our volunteers range in age from 20 to 86. As you can see, the oldest volunteer to date was 86. Oldest volunteer right now is 83. So it's never too late to get out there. Maybe some of our colleagues here at FIU and the Global Learning Center might go out and do Peace Corps one day, and I'm happy to help them through the application process. But yes, we're willing to take people right out of undergrad or mid-career in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, or at retirement age in their 60s, 70s, and 80s as well. And I kind of mentioned the sector area concentrations or the work sectors that Peace Corps has. Like I mentioned, I was in the agriculture sector, but we also have environment. Health and education are our two largest sectors, and then youth and development and community economic development. Depending on what you're interested in or what you're passionate about or what you've studied, you would go into this one work sector and work alongside community members to help them achieve their goals. So each sector has its own objectives and goals part of those projects, and each sector has a variety of projects that you can get involved with. On the Peace Corps website, it has everything listed out very nicely and a whole description of each project. For example, for me in the agriculture sector, my main role was a rural extension agent. Like that was the name of my project. And at that same time in Guatemala, the health project was maternal and child health. So the volunteers were in health clinics and providing trainings to the local doctors and nurses on maternal and child health. So it really depends on where you go, what country you're in, and what those communities' needs are. But throughout your Peace Corps service, there is a lot of flexibility. If you are interested in doing other things or other work in your community that's outside of these six sector areas, those are called secondary projects. Um, Myself and another volunteer, we collaborated and we provided different secondary projects in our community. We did English classes and Zumba dance classes. The Zumba was kind of random, but English is pretty common. A lot of Peace Corps volunteers get involved providing English classes or English tutoring all over the world. But there were a lot of girls and teenage girls that came up to me and my site mate, the other volunteer, and were like, "Hey, we want to dance. We know you guys like to dance. Like, we want to do Zumba. Can you teach us, or can you give classes?" And so we collaborated and we worked with the municipality and we were able to provide some Zumba classes to everybody in the community. It was open to everybody. And we would just memorize YouTube Zumba dances and just regurgitate the moves. And yeah, a few times, I think I have a photo later in the presentation, but we had a few good groups of girls actually show up. A lot of times with projects and Peace Corps. Sometimes people just don't show up at all, but these are actually well attended, which we are happy about. But anyway, there's a lot of different secondary projects you can do. Things like starting an all girls soccer league, or doing coding classes for kids, or maybe a honey or bee cultivation project. Again, it really just depends on the community's needs and what is expressed to you as a volunteer. And so we're located all over the world. We are in 61 different countries. This past month, we were able to send volunteers to El Salvador, making it the 61st country active with volunteers again. And there's two different ways you can apply. You can either send in a general application where you're telling Peace Corps you're willing to go anywhere and do anything, and the placement officers they choose for you where you'd be best fit. The other way you can apply is specifically, and this is how I submitted my application back in 2017. I chose Guatemala agriculture as my specific application. And this way is a bit more competitive because the placement officers will be looking for that specific work or volunteer experience in either the agriculture sector or health sector or education sector or however you're applying. But again, I'm the recruiter, so I'm here to help you navigate all of that. And if you need to make or want to make your resume or motivation statement stronger, I'm here to help. And I know there are some asterisks next to these countries. People have asked me about this in the past in other presentations. This was a visual that was created in 2022 when Peace Corps was first starting to go back into the field after the pandemic. And those were countries that were opening for Peace Corps volunteers but didn't have volunteers yet. So just ignore those asterisks because we do have volunteers in those places now, and we're fully active with volunteers in the field. Some benefits during service. So as a Peace Corps volunteer, everything is covered. So Peace Corps pays for your plane ticket to and from your country of service. They also provide you with a monthly living stipend, so enough money to pay for food, water, transportation, pay for your rent. They figure out housing, so we have a whole housing unit. They are staff members from our safety and security team that go out and make sure you are in a structurally sound, safe home, and that the host family members that you'll be living with are vetted and trained to have Peace Corps volunteers. Now, not everybody has a host family. Again, this really just depends on the country and the community you're living in for Peace Corps. In Guatemala, it was required. So myself and all the other volunteers in Guatemala, we had to live with host families. And honestly, that was my favorite part of my Peace Corps experience, or my favorite aspect. And again, I have some photos and I'll get more into that soon, but I really, really cherished the relationships I built from the host family experience. And it is a really great way to get to know the community and to integrate into your community as well. But anyway, with travel benefits, you do get 2 days of vacation per month, plus you have weekends off with Peace Corps. So with those 2 days of vacation, you can use them however you like. So if you want to use them each month, you can, or you can save them up and accumulate like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation. And you can come home to the United States and visit friends and family, or you can have friends and family come and visit you, and y'all can travel around your country or your region where your Peace Corps service is. I had two different groups of friends come and visit me, which was a lot of fun. And then I did come home for 2 weeks halfway through my service, which was kind of a nice break and a nice like reset before my second year of service. And then the medical and dental coverage. So you do have health insurance for the full 2 years of service. If you have student loans, you can apply for a deferment, so you don't have to make any payments on loans during your Peace Corps service. And then career skills and training. So you have training the entire time during Peace Corps. So at the very beginning, like I mentioned, you have 3 months of pre-service training, and then you have an early in-service training, which is a few months after you go to your community. And then halfway through your service, you have in-service training. And then at the very end of service, you have what's called close of service or COS training, where you talk about what is to come next, what expectations, how can you create a strong resume using your Peace Corps service, and how to create your DOS or description of service so that you can submit it with job applications after you get home. They also sometimes have, a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a training center, so you can come and visit us. And we have a representatives from organizations or agencies come in and talk to Peace Corps volunteers and talk about their agencies and talk about how their agencies really want Peace Corps volunteers to apply. Um, and you gain skills like how to become very resourceful and resilient, flexible and adaptable. And maybe you already have these soft skills, but through your Peace Corps service, they're going to definitely be amplified through all the different unique challenges that you'll go through and the accomplishments that you have as well as a volunteer. And that kind of leads me into the benefits after service. So once you come home, you do get $10,000 in transition funds. You can use this money however you'd like. The professional skills, a few other things are like very strong public speaking skills, how to speak in a different language in front of people, public speaking in a different language. If you're interested in nonprofit work, you do a lot of grant writing, especially if there's a project that needs some monetary funds. You and your work partners can apply for a grant. So you learn those skills, or maybe you already know those skills, but you use them a bit more in the field. So again, these are all great things that you can add to your professional resume. The graduate school benefits, this is our Paul D. Coverdell Fellowship Program. So Peace Corps partners with over 100 different universities and programs nationwide to provide partial to full tuition coverage for master's and doctoral degrees for returned volunteers. So if you're interested in getting a master's or a doctoral degree, you can definitely use this benefit to get partial or full tuition coverage. The Federal Employment Advantage. So once you come home from your Peace Corps service, you get 1 year of NCE or non-competitive eligibility. This gives you higher standing or higher status when you're applying to government jobs, which is really nice since a lot of government agencies can be quite competitive. The student loan assistance. So Peace Corps is part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So if you have student loans and you want to get them forgiven, that 1 year or 2 years of Peace Corps service will go towards your 10 years of public service. That's part of the PSLF program. Career resources and support. So this is kind of going back to that big network of return volunteers that exists here in the United States. Again, you can reach out to anybody at any time and kind of get mentored or get some information from people that have gone on to higher education or working in a government agency and really hear about their experience. And then additional service opportunities. So doing a Peace Corps service definitely makes you competitive for any other public service opportunity that you may be interested in. So if you want to do another Peace Corps service, or if you want to go into AmeriCorps, or if you want to pursue a nonprofit organization, having Peace Corps on your resume will definitely make you stand out. So I know I've gone through a lot of information and there may be a few questions. So I want to open it up right now if anybody wants to come off mute before I go into my photo slides. Okay, I think,
And
okay, go ahead.
one question that I wanted to ask you, Taylor, because you mentioned that you apply for a specific sector in Guatemala. So what made you choose Guatemala as the service location?
Thanks. Yes. So I definitely wanted to go to a Spanish speaking country because like I mentioned, I took Spanish all through high school and I minored in Spanish in college. And I went to college in Iowa at University of Iowa. And like I said, I grew up in Illinois. So I felt like I was always in like this bubble of the Midwest. And of course, there are some Spanish speakers in the city of Chicago, but I wasn't there and I never really got fluent in the language. And so I really wanted to hone in on those skills and use them in some way and then advance in those skills as well. So, and I always heard from people like the best way to actually learn a language is to be immersed in it. And we all know this, I'm sure, right? Like it's really hard to get very good at a language just through book Spanish or book or just going to class for that language, right? Immersing yourself in the community is the best way to do it. And so that was like a big reason why I wanted to go to a Spanish speaking country. And at the time when I applied, um, I put in agriculture and health as the two sectors that I was interested in. This was when I was filtering things out on the Peace Corps website, the application page. And then I filtered out like South and Central America as my regions. And at the time, there were only 4 options. In agriculture, position in Guatemala, an agriculture position in Nicaragua, and then a health position in Guatemala and a health position in Nicaragua. And I honestly kind of just randomly chose Guatemala. I was like, oh, well, I could go to either and I'm open to either. I just kind of was like, I'll just do Guatemala. I just randomly chose it, to be completely honest. And then it ended up working out.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And then other question that we receive is, can you talk a little bit about the language and professional training that Peace Corps provides during in-service training, and how long in-service training lasts before the volunteer goes to their assignment?
Great, thank you. Yes. So at the very beginning, it's 3 months of pre-service training. For us in Guatemala, it was about 10 weeks. So it was a little under 3 months technically. Um, and during those 3 months, you get all sorts of training. I remember like the first 8 weeks were very regimented. Like there was a training for every hour, every day. There was something going on. And they had a really jam-packed schedule for us. And so we had the safety and security team came in and they talked about different protocols, regulations, what to do in case of an emergency. The medical team came in and talked about different risks and mitigation strategies. And then we also did a lot of language training, cultural training, societal training, what to do in different societal situations and what the societal norms look like the history. We talked a lot about the history of Guatemala, the food, the religion, the indigenous aspect as well. And then a big piece of it, especially towards the end, I'd say probably halfway through, like at 5 weeks, and for 5 weeks moving forward, we did a lot of that professional training or doing like learning the skills of the actual project that we were going to be in. So we did a practicum to kind of get ourselves aware and situated in like what it's going to be like to be a Peace Corps volunteer in the agriculture sector. And we talked a lot about the goals of the Ministry of Agriculture and what their successes have been, their downfalls have been, and how we can work towards achieving that goal of helping them reduce malnutrition in rural households. And so a big piece of it was like that skill training and like what you'll actually be doing as a volunteer. And then, especially like the last few weeks, they encouraged us to spend a lot of time with our host families and to really get good at the language. So it was kind of broken up, sectioned off, I guess, depending on what week you were in. And as we got closer and closer to swearing in as an official volunteer, we definitely had more free time. And like I said, definitely more encouraged to integrate with our host families and kind of feel what that would feel like to be, a Peace Corps volunteer in someone else's home and trying to learn the language and get situated. And so, yeah, those first 10 weeks or first 12 weeks, whatever it may be in your community or in your country of service, is kind of like a mini taste of what Peace Corps service for 2 years or for 1 year will feel like. It's a great question.
Thank you for sharing, Taylor. And then we also got a question about, is there any way that international students can get involved in the organization? It's a great question.
Yes, thank you. So we do have what's called Campus Ambassadors. This is a program that we had a few years ago. It took a break or a pause, and we modernized the program, and now it's back. This year is our first year back, which is really exciting. Um, And what you do is you're pretty much working alongside me, the recruiter of the area, to promote Peace Corps. You're learning about the agency a bit more, learning a little bit more about my service, learning from other return volunteers, and then also promoting Peace Corps on campus. Since I can't be at FIU all day, every day, like students are, you get a whole swag kit with like Peace Corps t-shirts and Peace Corps flyers and a picnic blanket, like all these fun promotional items to use on campus to kind of promote Peace Corps there. Then you also work towards finding different student clubs or groups or organizations that I could potentially provide a Peace Corps class or club talk or an information session, kind of like this. And then also to post about Peace Corps on your personal social media, whether that's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, promoting the different virtual events that we have and then the in-person events that we have locally here in South Florida or at FIU. for FIU students to get involved. So if you're interested, please feel free to email me, and you can submit an application for the spring semester, or you can start next school year and do the full academic year. It is a paid position, which is great. You get $1,600 per semester. And again, it's kind of like a mentorship opportunity, a great way to learn more about the agency, and then kind of be like a promoter or influencer for Peace Corps.
Wonderful. And then I will also add in as well, we do have also the Peace Corps Prep program that is open to international students. And this one is also run through the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. We have a house in our department. So I'm also going to put the link in the chat for that initiative. And later we're also going to share Taylor's contact information as well. And then I guess a follow-up, this will be the last question for this part of the session. Do Peace Corps volunteers get a specific language training during the pre-service training? And if so, how much?
Great, thank you. So for any country that has a language requirement, like Guatemala had Spanish as a requirement, yes, we had Spanish language class for 20 hours a week for the 10 weeks. Um, so I can really only speak on my personal experience, but from what I've heard, if a country does not have that specific language requirement, you don't have as much language class. You will learn some of the indigenous or local languages throughout your pre-service training, and a lot of people get very good at those languages once they're in their permanent community for the 1 year or 2 years of service. But for us in Guatemala and for any other country that has that specific language requirement, you will do about 20 hours a week of language class to get good at the language so you can communicate with your work partners, community members, and if you have a host family too. Okay. Well, thank you for the questions. I'm happy we were able to have like a little intermission and before I head into the human connection part of the session, and that's what the main focus of today's roundtable is. And I'm happy I was able to share about exactly what Peace Corps was, just in case, you know, participants today weren't really sure. But now I'm gonna show you some photos from my Peace Corps service, and then I'll open it up for questions and dialogue and discussion of whatever y'all want to talk about from what I've already said or from what I'm about to say. Okay, so I want to try and give you like a simulation of what Peace Corps was like. And I love, like, this is my favorite part of any presentation when I can actually share like the photos, the experience, and like what I went through and what we go through as Peace Corps volunteers. And so this photo on the left is from our swearing in ceremony. So as we've mentioned, like I've mentioned a few times now, you do your 3 months of pre-service training at the very beginnings, and then you swear in as volunteers. And it feels kind of like a graduation ceremony where you get these little certificates, you do the oath of office actually, and typically the ambassador of that country comes and presents you with your certificate, and then you all kind of have a celebration. The Peace Corps staff members are there. They encourage you to dress up or dress nice. As you can see, everybody is not dressed to the nines, but dressed a little nicer than we would if we were just with our host families for the day. And so this was my cohort. That's also what it's called. So when you go to Peace Corps, you don't go alone. You go with a group of people. So half of these people in this picture on the left were in the agriculture sector with me. And then the other half were part of the health sector. So they were focusing on maternal and child health. And we got really close through our pre-service training. And I always tell people, those first 3 months are a great way to establish really strong relationships. And these are the people that will be there to support you your entire Peace Corps service. They're typically the ones that you can reach out to, and you'll switch over and speak in an all English conversation, because a lot of times in your community, it's going to be all Spanish or Spanglish or a mix of Spanish and an indigenous language. And again, this is specific to my Peace Corps service, right? If you go to a French speaking country or a different country, it's going to be different. But for me, they were a big support system that way. But also the Peace Corps staff members, became a great support system too. And I stayed in touch with my program manager. So each sector had its own program manager. So the health sector had one, and the agriculture sector had one as well. And they're pretty much like your supervisor. They're there to mentor you, help you along the way, check in on you and see if you're kind of getting towards the objectives and deliverables and the goals of that actual program that you're in. And I worked with my program manager a lot actually the first few months. I try to have biweekly check-in calls with her. I sent her a report once a month, and she helped me understand really what to get done next in trying to achieve the goals in the agriculture sector. But this photo on the right is okay. So I'm there in the middle with that tie-dye shirt, and I had very short hair at the very beginning of my Peace Corps service. And the man next to me, he was part of my Peace Corps cohort. He was also in the agriculture sector. And then these wonderful people that are with us are all part of our host family. So we kind of had the same host family. I was with this woman and her child, her children, and her husband, and then the rest of the family. They were the host family for Ryan. That's his name, the other Peace Corps volunteer. And so we spent a lot of time together. We got to know the host families together, and we actually ended up hosting like a farewell party for all for us volunteers and then the other volunteers that were in the community. And we wanted to thank them too. Like, it had been 10 weeks. We got really close with everybody. And it was actually a really sad moment when we were like, okay, this is it. Like, we're leaving now. And with my host family, I was like their first volunteer that they had in the home. And so it was special to them and for me because it was my first Peace Corps service too. And so I got really close with them, and my host mom, her name's Gris. I would ask them all these random questions in Spanish, and I was like really trying to advance in my Spanish, and they would try to explain things to me. It's just funny in the beginning because I just I was trying to speak Spanish, and it was just like this gringa accent, like it was good, but not really, and like I kind of knew what was going on, but not really. And Greece was actually so patient and really good, and she got really good at just like speaking slowly with me because I would hear her speak to her family, or she'd be on the phone speaking like so fast, and I would like try to hear like what she was saying, and then she would speak to me like so slow, and I was like, wow, okay, she's like actually trying to help me learn the language, which I really appreciated, and we're still friends to this day. Like I still call her via WhatsApp, or I'll send her messages and things like that. And it was funny because everybody else had host moms or host families that were a little bit older, like Ryan's family. Like these were the grandparents of the kids in my host family. And then Gris was only like 5 or 6 years older than me. So I was like, oh, you're not Doña Gris. You're like mi tia chilera. You're my cool aunt. And so we became really good friends. And all throughout my Peace Corps service, I would come back and visit them, and I would love to visit the whole town. Like I would visit Gris, and then I would also visit Doña Jose and Don Hector, and that's the names of the grandparents that were part of the host family. So really stayed in touch with all of them, and it's crazy how big the kids are now. I mean, they're like babies in these photos, but they're all grown up. I mean, this was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So yeah, it's just crazy to see how time flies and people grow and things change. But those first 3 months, or those first 10 weeks were really my first taste of human connection, I guess, in my Peace Corps service, both with the other volunteers that were in my cohort, but then also through that um, host family experience that I had with Gris and the rest of the family. They were so warm and so welcoming, and again, very patient with me because again, there was a lot of mistakes and mishaps, and they were always there. And we would always laugh about it at the end of the day. And like I said, we're still friends to this day. And I'm so happy that I actually know Spanish now and I can actually speak to Gris and have like these fun, long conversations. And again, like I still have that connection. Okay, so once we swore in and once we had our ceremony that same day, after we got our certificates from the ambassador, and we actually said our goodbyes and said our goodbyes to the host family, said our goodbyes to everybody in our cohort and the Peace Corps staff. Myself and Evelyn, she was my site mate. She was in the health sector. We got driven to Santa Catarina, Ixtahuacan, which is this town. It's a photo of Santa Catarina. It's nicknamed Alaska. It's at 10,000 feet. It's about 4 hours from the capital of Guatemala City, which is the capital of Guatemala. And it's about 2 hours to Quetzaltenango or Xela, which is the second largest town in Guatemala. And we oftentimes would take the bus from Alaska to Xela to go to the Walmart or the movie theaters, or there is a really good bakery in Xela to buy things if we needed things. I mean, oftentimes we buy everything in the town too, but if there were other items that we couldn't find in town, that's where we would buy our items. But Alaska, again, it's a small indigenous community. I think the population is about 2,500, very small, dry town. There's no like discotecas or bars or cantinas or anything like that. There's no public drinking or consumption. It's very conservative, traditional, religious. Half the town is evangelical, the other half is Catholic. I was on the Catholic side, which worked out nicely because I actually grew up Catholic. So my host family loved the fact that I was willing to go to Catholic Mass with them. And this photo here, if you this big building on the left, that's actually the big Catholic church. So I would oftentimes go with my host family to Mass. But Evelyn, who was my site mate, any other volunteer that's in the same community as you is your site mate. Evelyn lived with a host family that was evangelical, and Evelyn actually grew up evangelical, so it kind of like worked out perfectly. But oftentimes, if I went and hung out with Evelyn and her host family, they'd be like, "Oh, what's going on with your family?" Or like all these chismes or rumors about the Catholic side of the town. So it was just very interesting, the dynamic of the town and the culture of the town, and it's 99% Maya Quiche. So when I got there, again, like I was so excited to use Spanish, and I was like, oh my gosh, Gris like helped me kind of learn it. And I feel like I'm getting good and better, and I'm going to learn even more. And I'm excited to practice with my new host family. But I didn't realize that Spanish was also their second language. Like I knew it was 99% Maya Quiche because they give you all this information before you go to your town. But I just didn't realize like just how significant that was until I was there with my host family and they were all speaking Quiche. So I'd be sitting and eating dinner with everybody and just kind of sitting in silence, listening to everybody speak. And as you could tell, I'm a talkative person and I like to connect with people through jokes and conversations and stories and hearing about their lives. But I wasn't really able to do that because they were all speaking in a language that I had no clue how to speak. And so the very beginning was a little hard. I did feel a little isolated, even in my own town, just because I wanted to connect with the family, but I didn't know how to. And I started to learn the language, and that was what helped me a lot. Once my host family kind of started teaching me Quiche, and I started kind of teaching them some English. We were like teaching each other our native languages. This helped build like a really strong connection and a really strong relationship between myself, the community members, and my host family members. I did start taking Quiche classes with my host aunt and then with my host mom. And then I would introduce myself in Quiche and I would say hi, like greet people on the street as I walked by. So if you walk by somebody in Alaska, you say, hey, ba, or ba. That means like, hey, hi, how's it going? As you're like walking by. And at first, it was just so funny. Like once I learned that, I would do that in the town, and people were just like doing double takes. Like, wait, what? Like, again, who's this gringa speaking our language? Like, how does she know? But once I kept doing it, and people kind of got to know me and saw me around more and more, and like I was going to the market a lot and hanging out with the vendedores de frutas, like the women that were selling the fruits and atol and all of that. Like they saw me there, and like I would try and use quiche with them. They would laugh at me because my accent's so funny, and I would laugh at myself because I would try and say something. They're like, no, no, don't say it that way. That's like a bad word, or that's not even a word. So it's a lot of humility, a lot of like laughing at yourself, laughing at mistakes, but then learning from the community too, and learning um, like the best way to say things, right? And so again, this was also a really great way to just connect with the community and to help that integration process which also kind of spilled over into the actual work that we were doing and the work that I was doing as an agriculture volunteer. Because once you're able to connect with the community and connect with organizations, connect with the municipality, connect with the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, you start to really hear what the actual problems are in the community. People, it'll be like the end of the workday, you're eating dinner or you're at the market getting some fruits or whatever, and they just say something randomly, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I didn't think that was an actual problem, like, let's talk about that more." So a lot of times people would talk about things without even realizing, like, "Oh, this could actually go towards the project that we're working on," or it could be implemented into a project that we could work on. So yeah, once people saw that I wasn't there as a tourist for just, like, 2, 3 weeks, they were like, "Oh, okay, I guess we could trust her," and, like, oh, the conversations really definitely started flowing. So this is a photo of me and Juana Julia. Juana was my main work partner in Alaska. Love her. She is, excuse my French, a badass woman and a work partner, and she worked for the Ministry of Agriculture for years. Um, she was also my host aunt, so I got to know her in many different ways and got to know the family in a lot of different ways through her and the conversations that we had. But this was a community that we visited often, and this was a training day. So Juana provided a training about how to create at-home soaps and for these women to use the soaps and use them in the household, but also they could sell them in local markets if they wanted to. So I just like to share this photo. This was one of the first projects we did together, first trainings, and these ladies were so fun and goofy. And at first, they were again kind of timid and like curious, like, okay, what again? What's with this tall gringo with the Patagonia doing here? But then I started using the indigenous language with them, and they really opened up and ended up being really fun, wonderful ladies. Um, Okay. And then, I did mention the Zumba classes. Here's a photo of me and, some of the girls from the town doing Zumba, which was a lot of fun. And then here's my whole host family from, Alaska. And yes, I know I am wearing the typical traje of Guatemala, but there is a backstory. It does look like cultural appropriation, but my host mom, is back here. Her name's Emiliana. She asked me, "Hey," or she told me, "Hey, we're gonna go to my sister's nursing graduation, dress nice, put something good on." And so I put on like a pair of jeans and a blouse, and she goes, "Oh, no, 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 not that. Like you could wear something better. Here, come here." And she came, brought me to her room, and she dressed me up in the whole traje, her whole traje. And in Guatemala, the huipil or the blouse um, is your top, and then you have the faja and the corte, which is the entire ensemble, and everything is either hand woven or hand dyed. And she's like, "There, now you look good. Now we can go." And so I felt honored and privileged to be able to wear the traje with them all. And oftentimes they'd want me to wear it, and they said I look so great and all these things, right? But the the designs that are, part of the huipil or the corte are actually representative of whatever region that you're in Guatemala, and so, the huipil that I'm wearing today is representative of Alaska, of the town that I lived in. And so, yeah, this host family was really special. So, Emiliana and Esquipulas were my host parents, and then they had 2 kids, Emmy and Ryan. And again, they were kind of quiet and timid at first, and I was coming in trying to say all these Spanish jokes, and they weren't landing. They didn't make any sense, and they were just like, "Who are you? Like, tell us more about you." And so I shared a lot about my family. They shared a lot about themselves, and they ended up opening up a lot, especially after a few months and after them trying to teach the Quiche language to me and me teaching a little bit of English to them. And again, kind of goes back towards this human connection aspect of let's just connect in your language first. Like I was just trying too hard, like trying to use Spanish and trying to make jokes that didn't make any sense. At the end of the day, you do a lot of just sitting back, listening and understanding like what is the best way to integrate and to get to know the community. And maybe it's completely different than you ever thought. And maybe it's a completely different tactic than you ever thought too. Okay, so my second year of Peace Corps service, I was actually in a completely different community. There was a conflict over rights between my town and a neighboring town. And so the safety and security team at Peace Corps, they said it would be safer for us to transfer communities. And so my second community was in San Andres, Sametebach, and I lived with Doña Juana, who's here in this photo, love her, and her son, Sergio. And then they have a large family. As you can see, this is a photo of all of us eating tamales on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And my other site mate is here with us as well. Berlin, that was her name. She was in the education sector for Peace Corps, and we collaborated a lot actually on different work in the schools in the community. And San Andres was completely different than Alaska. San Andres was a lot closer to like a touristy area of Guatemala, and so there was just a lot more exposure to different communities and to different people. And so when I came in, they were like, "Hey, you come and do English classes. Hey, come do Zumba. We heard you do this and do that." And the work was like just a lot busier and there's a lot more. That first town in Alaska, they were just very set in their ways. Like I said, like a very indigenous, traditional town. And so like whenever I was like, "Hey, do you guys want to try this? Or there's this training?" They'd be, "Ah, it's okay." But with this town, they're like, "Oh yeah, give us the training," or, "Oh, we hear Peace Corps has grants, like we want to apply for them." So the exposure to the indigenous language or indigenous customs was not as strong in the second community, but the actual work that I was doing was definitely a lot more than that first community. But I loved living with Doña Juana and Sergio. We had a lot of conversations and a lot more advanced Spanish. So we were actually talking about like politics and political events and um, current events and things of that nature. And I would actually make a joke in Spanish and it actually landed. And so I was like, wow, I think I've made it finally with Spanish. And I was starting to dream in Spanish. I was like, wow, the second year I was actually there with the language, which was really exciting. And Doña Juana and Sergio, they have like a little tienda in the town. And I got to know the community members really well through just working at the tienda. Doña Juana would get a little tired in the afternoons and go take naps or go for a shower or something. And she'd be like, just watch the tienda for like an hour. I'll be back. And I said, okay, no worries. And so I was like, playing music and talking to the kids and talking to the people of the town and like, who are you? Who's this gringa here? I'm like, hey. So I would talk to them and get to know them really well and kind of made friends through the tienda that way, which was a lot of fun. And then this is a photo on the right. That is my cohort. Almost everybody stayed. Retention rates in Peace Corps can be kind of hard during Peace Corps service. And this was well into our second year. And I kind of had like a reunion. I had people over, and Doña Juana and Sergio met everybody. And we only had about 4 people, 3 or 4 people from that original cohort that you saw at the very beginning that did go home just for various reasons. But almost everybody stayed. I think this is 25 or 26 people in our cohort were actually there. And we just, like I said, just kind of had a reunion. And I'm still friends with a lot of these people to this day. Best friends with Evelyn, who was my site mate in that first community, that first year. We're like travel buddies now, and anytime anybody needs anything, these people can reach out to me and I can reach out to them. And again, this goes back to human connection that you have during your Peace Corps service with the people that are in your cohort, with the community members, with your host family, with everybody you interact with during Peace Corps. And this is a photo on the left of one of the community groups that was part of a fruit tree project that my work partners and I collaborated on, that we collaborated with 5 different groups. We had 5 months of 5 different trainings about fruit trees. My work partners and I, we wrote a grant together to raise money, to get some monetary funds for this project. And this was actually only one of the communities I was able to see to the very end. I think this was in the beginning of March of 2020. About a few weeks after this photo was taken, we were evacuated because of COVID. And so I wasn't able to go back and finish the project with my work partner, Ingeniero Oscar, who's in the back of the photo with me. But he went back and he finished it and he went to the 4 other groups. And the ladies of this group and all the ladies of the other groups that we worked with, They received fruit trees, and they received those little diplomas that you see, like the little certificates, and like a packet of the information that they learned throughout the 5 months of the trainings that we provided about fruit trees. So this was, it's just a great example of like what you can actually do as a volunteer. And again, trying to make it, sustainable, grassroots, and part of what the communities actually need. We did multiple analyses with these different groups to really understand what their resources and needs were before we before ultimately my work partners decided that they wanted to focus on fruit trees, and that these women's groups and these community groups wanted to focus on fruit trees. And so it was a really great way to see, like, Peace Corps work in action, and to actually do it, was very inspirational, and motivating too. Like, if you put your mind to something and a group of people puts their minds to something, you can really get a lot of work done. And I know we're getting close to time, so I wanna, wrap up soon, but this is just a photo of Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. I really didn't know what to expect going to my Peace Corps service. All I knew was that Guatemala was in Central America, near Mexico. I did not know I was going to learn a bit of an indigenous language. I didn't know that I was gonna get as good in Spanish as I did. I didn't know that I was gonna live with 3 different host families and become so close to all of them. I didn't know I was gonna make such strong friendships and good connections with the people that I had throughout my Peace Corps service, and they're part of my life now. It feels like they're part of my family, and I really didn't know I was gonna come back and continue working for Peace Corps, and living out this mission of promoting world peace and friendship. And I'm so happy that I did it. I'm so happy I was there. And I love this photo because, it's a beautiful photo, right? There's so much beautiful nature in Guatemala with the lake and the volcanoes. I hiked 5 different volcanoes, also something I never thought I would do. But also I saw so much more beauty, just beauty in humanity, beauty in the people that I worked with and that I lived with, and the beauty in the relationships that I built and that grew from my Peace Corps service. So there's so much human connection through a Peace Corps service. And if this is something that you're passionate about or interested in or want to get involved with or want to get passionate about, please reach out, and please ask questions, and I can get you in touch with other return volunteers. And I know this was a big focus on Guatemala and a Spanish speaking country and on my service, but there are so many other people here in Miami that are willing and excited to share about their service too. So if you want to learn more, if you want to apply, or if you want to do campus ambassadors, or you just want to talk about Peace Corps, please reach out. That's my email address, and I'll open it up for questions. Thank you all so much.
Um, Thank you so much, Taylor, for such a wonderful presentation and also for taking us through your journey in Peace Corps. We truly appreciate it. I feel that I was in Guatemala again by you sharing your photos. Such a beautiful country with so much to offer and amazing people and culture as well. So we truly appreciate your time and also sharing your human connection, your personal human connection. I'm gonna open it up. We have a few more minutes for any questions that the students may have. While we wait for the questions, I'm just gonna share a quick slide on some of the upcoming TTRs that we have. And I think we also have the executive director for the Global Learning Student Board here with us. Is Desiree with us?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Let me go ahead and share screens right here. All right. And she wanted to talk a little bit about the Global Learning Student Board. I give it to you, Desiree.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Taylor, for a rather wonderful presentation. I found it super interesting. Hi, I'm Desiree. I'm the executive director for the Global Learning Student Board here at FIU. This is a gorgeous picture of me and some of the other board members. So as you guys are already here, I'm sure you know what a TTR is. So I won't go over to explain too much, but pretty much what we do is we work to exemplify and connect the Global Learning Center to students on campus. So one way, a lot of the students that are here, Taylor, are either here maybe for Peace Corps, those interested in the Peace Corps program. We do offer a Peace Corps prep, but we also offer a global medallion. So this is a way for students to come to events like these, but so much more that we offer. And by the time that they graduate, they can hopefully say that they have embraced themselves into a global citizenship and took their time here at FIU to expand themselves and their experiences. So we yesterday just had a meet the board where we allowed people to come and be able to meet us, ask any questions, and just make room for collaboration. And in a couple weeks, we will be having a Halloween event. It's welcome to all. And this is just another way to open up the Global Learning Center. People can come visit, see where advising hours are, see a little bit more of what we do, and get to know the board in a little bit more of a casual manner. So if anybody has any more questions or is a little more interested in what the Global Learning Board does, we do have an email that I'm sure John or you can drop in the chat, and we have our Instagram and stuff like that where it's always looking out for. So we're always open and super excited to see you of more crimes. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Desiree. And then our last slide for today's session is on a reminder that TTR continues again next week. This time around is going to be on a session on Beyond Limitations, Striving Through Adaptive Athletics. An organization local in South Florida called Nirvana Project is going to be moderating next week's session. If you would like to also provide us some feedback on what would you would like to see next semester, you may go to go.fiu.edu/TTR feedback. Thank you everyone for joining us. I know it's already 1:31, but just to be mindful of everyone's time, I just want to give a last thank you to our presenter, Taylor, for being with us today, sharing about the Peace Corps, the amazing opportunities available to all of us, and also your journey as well as a Peace Corps volunteer. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, Joanna?
So I came in and I forgot to check in. Would you guys be able to please share the QR code for me, please?
And so I'm going to share with you my email. Send me an email with your name and Panther ID, and then that way I can also verify your attendance for you. So let me go
Perfect.
ahead
Thank you.
and
Thank
send it
you.
right here. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Joanna.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.